On this episode, we are following up with part 2 of The Culture. Gain insight on how to use the muscle called your tongue, learn what the term abracadabra means, understand the power of belief, and so much more right here on LifeClub.
I'm Tashima Jones. Welcome to LifeClub. I genuinely believe personal development unlocks the door to the abundant and wonderful life we all already have. I also believe we must be intentional about seeking out that life in order to find and fulfill it. I am so grateful your journey of discovery has led you all the way here. Let's keep moving forward together. Once again, welcome to LifeClub with me, Tashima Jones. Hello, Tashima Jones here. Super excited that you are tuning in with me on LifeClub with Tashima Jones. So today we are going into part 2 of hashtag the culture. On our last episode, we spoke about the culture, and I found it necessary to, have a part 2. If you have not listened, please do so. You can just check out all of our archive shows on tashimajones.com or by downloading my app, TJMTV. But we're going to do a quick recap for you right now. So last week, we defined culture as this idea of maintaining an environment that is suitable for growth. And one of our keywords was cultivate, aka to grow plants, to grow a thing. We spoke about how the culture we find ourselves in externally has a way of influencing us. How we speak, how we think, how we act, how we dress, even the foods that we eat. And the bulk of our talk was focused on our inner world, that inner culture that exists on the inside of us. We also spoke about how to cultivate that inner culture. We have to do some unlearning, raking up some unfruitful roots and washing away the dirt of all these things that don't really add to our internal garden, if you will. Some tips and tools we went over were journaling, seeking counseling, prayer, meditation, and of course, forgiveness. And the result of doing those things should be healing. It should be this process of creating an inner environment that is ready for growth. And that's where we are picking up today. I truly, truly, truly desire that this show really assists you on your journey of living a life of wholeness and abundance. It is truly, truly a joy of mine. So we're going to dig right in. Today's keywords, phrases, whatever you like to call them, are abracadabra, the concept of the power of our tongue, the word sonogram, and last but not least, philosophy or paradigm. So I wanted to start with, I guess we can start with abracadabra. We can just work our way down the list. So we've heard this phrase plenty of times when growing up and you're at a children's party, or you see a magician doing something and he or she would say abracadabra. And when I realized what the reality of this term meant, it literally shifted something on the inside of me. The root of this word, of this phrase in Hebrew really means I will create as I speak. Once again, abracadabra literally means I will create as I speak, or I will create or have what I speak. And that is so powerful because when you think about this concept of speaking things into existence, it starts to make a little bit more sense. And I believe by the end of this installment of Life Club, you will really be empowered with tips and tools on how to use your words. All of these keywords and phrases that we're using today are totally linked together. So now I'm going to skip down the list actually and go to this concept of sonogram, aka an ultrasound. And we've all heard of this concept of the ultrasound, but when we dig in a little deeper to what that really means, it's quite fascinating. So the concept of a sonogram is literally a picture made from sound. When we think about photograph, that is a picture, an image created by light. And sonogram is an image, a picture that is created by sound. And what happens is there's this ultrasound that is not evident to our natural ear. However, once that machine is hooked up to that pregnant woman's belly, there is sound being emitted into her belly, into her stomach, into her womb. And the sound is bouncing off of the organs in that person's body and reflecting an image. I always encourage you to do your own research and look this up. But this concept of ultrasound, this concept of sonogram, is literally high frequency sound waves that we cannot hear with our natural ear, creating an image, developing an image based on the reflection of the sound bouncing off of whatever it's pointed to. I hope this is going to make a little bit more sense as we dig into our conversation, if it already does not. So then we go to the power of the tongue. Now, when you think about abracadabra, I will create what I say, I will create as I speak. And you think about the power of sound in the ultrasound, you have to recognize that you are literally at some point in your life, literally speaking things into existence. And I say some point in your life because oftentimes we are not the gardener of our garden. When you are coming up and you are being raised by adults and you're literally governed by another human being, another individual, part of your life is truly being lived out underneath someone else's management. So sometimes we go through certain things that we may not have chosen or spoken into existence for ourselves. But at some point, you become the manager, the steward of your life, and you are literally living out the life that you are speaking forth. And yes, things happen. I haven't gotten 100% there where I can understand why certain things happen to certain people, but the reality of the matter is that you have not only the power and authority, but the responsibility to really manage and tend to your garden, aka that inner culture, and you will live from that space. So when we think about abracadabra, we think about how we are creating not only our inner culture, but how that is spilling over into our natural world. And when you recognize the power of sound, when you recognize that you can literally speak things into existence simply with your voice, you will be much more mindful of the conversations you have and even the things that you listen to, because we all know that that inner culture is being cultivated by the things that we receive on the inside through our ears, through our eyes, and through our habits. Now, the power of the tongue. When we recognize that sound is powerful, we have to recognize where the sound come from. And we have a voice box in our bodies, and we have this muscle called the tongue. The tongue is literally a muscle. Let's just take a deep breath on that. The tongue is literally a muscle. So when you think about the other muscles that we use on a regular basis, our arms for lifting, our our legs for walking and all this other good stuff, you have to take into consideration what else are you using your tongue for besides eating. You are using it to speak. And when you put all of these things together, when you recognize the power that is literally in your tongue, again, I am believing, hoping, and praying that you will begin to use it much more wisely. Now, our last key word is philosophy or paradigm. It's literally what you believe. And that is the foundation. That is the filter by which we screen everything through. It's your philosophy towards life. You can be the type of person that will appreciate a rainy day because you know that water is necessary to replenish the earth, or you can be that person who has a whole entire attitude when there are some showers. How are you viewing life? Because how you view life is how you're going to experience life. And how you view life is how you are going to speak about life. Once again, the culture that we find ourselves in, that environment that we find ourselves in every single day is literally shaping and molding us. And if you are ignorant of it, or if you are left in the dark about how much culture really influences you, you will literally be like that leaf just blowing in the wind, being tossed to and fro without any direction or any vision for the future. So I wanted to go over those keywords once again. Abracadabra, aka I will create as I speak. And it's so fitting for a magician to actually say that, because they're good at pulling things out of hats, making things visible and invisible, and doing some really, really interesting things. But we have to recognize that we all have this power to literally have what we speak. And that power is found in understanding this concept of the sonogram, understanding ultrasound. Your voice is literally one of the most powerful tools that you have in your arsenal of spirituality and in your arsenal of living your #best life. So use it properly. And once again, philosophy. What is your philosophy towards life? What is your paradigm? So those are the 4 keywords: abracadabra, the power of the tongue, the sonogram, and your philosophy towards life. So now we're just going to put all of these things out on the table in front of us. The power and the ability to speak a thing into existence with our tongues, with our mouth, understanding the influence and the power of sounds, and recognizing what philosophy we have as our foundation. And I want to dig into that a little bit more. So when we think about culture and we think about the environment, that inner reality that we experience on a daily basis, we have to know the condition that it's in. So remember last week we spoke about practical things that could help us heal those certain areas in our lives that aren't profitable, that aren't fruitful. We spoke about journaling. We spoke about really unlearning all of the muck in the mirror that kind of got on us throughout time, throughout experience. So when we think about the foundation now, we are in this space of clarity, aka peace. It's not necessarily knowing what to do or not necessarily knowing how everything is going to be done. It's just this space of peace that it is well. And when you are in that space, you have to then rise up on the inside and start to plant some good seed. And I think a lot of us get stuck in this space where it's like, okay, I've gotten over these things, but now I just feel empty and formless and void. And when you get to that space, it is truly a divine space. It's a sweet spot to be in, because now you can move forward without all of the luggage of the past. And that's what we have to do. We have to literally have this almost washing of our memory washing of our conscious to where it's like, okay, I'm not experiencing these things anymore. And now I have to create new habits. I have to create a new paradigm. I have to rebuild on a foundation that is made and laid in peace, in joy, in happiness, in abundance, in hopes, in purpose. And again, this is a huge space to be in. And it's a really, really major step in moving forward, because if your foundation isn't secure, your house will not stand, basically. So laying that foundation is a space where we start to plant new thoughts. We start to plant new ideas. We start to plant new hopes and new dreams. And even if those dreams and hopes are the same as the past, we start to plant them from a space of actually believing that they can come true. Because oftentimes it's not dreaming that's hard. It's actually believing that that dream can actually be your reality. So when you are in this space of clarity, being freed from all of the hurt, pain, and disappointment that you've experienced in the past, you have to start to practice believing again. Oh, let's just take a deep breath on that. Oftentimes we don't really even believe in the thing that we want. So there's a difference between wanting something and actually believing that it is yours, or believing that it can actually happen. And you will know whether or not you have simply a want and a desire and something that you actually believe in by your reaction to things. If the thought comes up about this dream, this goal, this aspiration, if it comes up and you have a check in your spirit, a check in your inner being that pulls you away from it, or you dismiss it very easily, or you fret over it, or you're anxious about it, that is a sign telling you that you probably don't believe in what you want. And you are not going to receive what you want. You are going to receive what you believe is already yours. And that's the huge key in this idea of speaking things into existence. Because if there's no power and there's no intention behind that thing that you speak, you're probably not going to receive it. Because it has to be received first in spirit. It has to be received first in belief. For example, no one can actually come up to me and tell me that my name is not Tashima, because I'm going to look at them with the side eye like, this has been my name for 36 years and I'm pretty sure that it's my name, and I am fully persuaded that it is my name. And that's how we have to get when it comes to our hopes and our dreams and the promises that we truly believe are ours. We have to be fully persuaded of those things, be it good health, be it abundance, be it a healthy relationship, being a purpose or an aspiration that you have, whatever that thing may be. You must sit in a space, in a posture that you already know that it's yours. So that's why a lot of people have difficulty with basically having affirmations and having, certain vision boards, even where people get caught up into this space. Well, I'm just going to speak it into existence. There's so much intention that goes into that. There's so much belief that goes into that. And even more, there is a preparation process that goes into that. Oftentimes, we are trying to run away from that process of being built for a thing. A doctor goes to school for a certain amount of years to actually be able to practice. There's a process to everything in life. There is even a process of getting into earth. Takes about 9 months. So when we try to stay away from the process of the very thing that we hope for and desire, we will never get to that thing. And the more you start to develop, the more you start to cultivate, the more you start to become fit for the very hope and dream that you have, the more you start to believe it. So that's so important and so key to growing the culture on the inside of you. You are literally planting, you are literally processing a thing. So we can't get so caught up in having the fruit that we abandon the process of actually growing that fruit. It's kind of like winning the lottery. You know, there's so many stories about people winning the lottery and they get the golden ticket and then they lose it within a year's time. Because mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they were not prepared to actually receive such a windfall of a blessing. So we have to be grateful in the process. We have to be grateful for the planting of a thing. We have to be grateful for the roots growing. We have to be grateful for the little stem and then the little leaf and then the little bud. We have to be grateful for the process of growing a thing, of cultivating our inner reality. We cannot leave the classroom. We cannot abandon the small things because we will never know how to maintain the big things. It's so amazing how if you can't take care of a plant, what makes you think you're going to have the patience and the ability to take care of an entire tree, an entire forest, an entire nation, if you will? Like I think oftentimes, again, we chase the miracle and we aren't grateful for the blessing. We aren't grateful for the process. And I truly believe that the farmer of all industries, of all professions, is the most faithful and the most patient of any kind. Because you have to literally believe that this small seed that I'm planting and covering in dirt is going to actually yield a harvest. That takes a lot of faith, a lot of patience, and a lot of dependence on the Spirit. Because contrary to popular belief, man cannot make it rain. So we have to be mindful and grateful and attentive to the process. Once again, if you were just tuning in, this is Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. I'm so grateful that you are rocking with me on this journey of a life. Getting back into our show, we are speaking about the culture, aka your inner reality. What is going on within you? So many people are walking around suffering within their mind, between their ears. So many people just want peace. So many people just want rest. And they want that rest here on earth. And it's so vital, so important for us to be stewards of our inner being. And one of the major things, one of the greatest aha moments, revelations, if you will, that I have received is this understanding, this knowledge of having power and authority over your thoughts. Again, if you are a student of Life Club, you would have learned that thoughts are simply options, but our choice is what we actually take and chew and meditate on. And you have to get to that space in yourself where you really start to understand that every thought that comes to you does not have to be received by you, does not have to be planted in the womb of your mind and heart and cultivated. You have to recognize that there's so much power in that. There's so much freedom in that reality. And again, too many of us are receiving thoughts that do not belong to us. So when we recognize that thoughts are things, when we recognize that there is this spirit world that is happening around us, one of the cool / kind of weird things I like doing is when my hair has static, I put my hand next to my hair and I go up and down and I allow the energy from my hand to move my hair without it even touching. And that's just a constant reminder of this invisible realm that surrounds us, that wraps us every single day. When you start to tune in to that spirit world and get outside of this 5 sensory world, you start to become freer and freer and freer. I hope that is correct. you start to experience this freedom from the things that you see, hear, taste, and smell. However, what we experience in the five sensory realm can influence the inner being if we do not, once again, understand this power and authority that we have over these things. And the goal, the key, I truly believe our very desire is to create what we experience in this natural world. And too often, and for far too long, we've been so kind of inside out about it, or backwards about it rather, where we've allowed the natural world to influence our inner world instead of allowing our inner world to influence our natural world. Literally everything that we experience as a human society is birthed from the spirit. And I think it's kind of warped because we have started to, again, cultivate our inner beings based on what we experience in the natural. So coming back to that power, coming back to that strength, coming back to that reality that you are able to literally influence your external environment. One of the things one of the practices or activities or exercises that I do with Justice, and even, it started with myself, was just having a silent thought on the inside of my mind, and then actually getting up and doing that thing. It could be as simple as I'm thinking, raise your left hand. And then I raise my left hand. Get up and go do this. And then I get up and go do that. Because while that's so simple, it's so powerful because you literally have the ability to do what you think. And to take it a step further, you can have a thought, speak the thought, and then actually manifest the thought. And once you start to practice that, I truly believe it helps you understand internally that power that you have to literally give birth to a thought. But we have to be mindful of the thoughts that we receive. Remember, the only options of thoughts that we have are life and those things that are not life. The only options that we have are blessings or not blessings. And if you are an avid listener of LifeClub, you know why I'm saying not, because I'm really mindful of the words that I use. So when you get back into that vehicle of your mind and of your heart and understanding your power, authority, your free will to make a decision and actually cultivate that thought, cultivate that thing, cultivate that choice that you have made spiritually, you will recognize that you have the power to carry it out. And oftentimes when we choose life and when we choose the things that yield abundance and fruitfulness, it's always so much more greater than what we actually even can imagine. So what that says to me is that I need to think very big and very grand and very just literally out of this natural world. So understanding that power that you have, understanding that authority that you have to literally choose life is so empowering, and it literally calms down that monkey in the cage where a lot of people tend to reference those ants, those automatic negative thoughts that we experience on a daily basis. It starts to really simmer those things down. It starts to bring that clarity. It starts to bring that peace. It starts to bring that ground, that soil that is ready to really be used for fruitfulness and for abundance. So when we get to that space of clarity, everything that we grow is based on what we believe. Oh, let's just take a deep breath on that. It's kind of like when we, I don't know if it was, I forget what animal it was, but there's like this experiment where, an animal was put into a cage that's a certain amount of feet wide, and that animal just kind of circles that cage, and then when that animal is set free into the wild or into a more spacious place, that animal continues to just walk in that small setting, that 20 by 20, measurement of the cave. And there's this huge ocean or this huge field or this huge rainforest that That animal can just explore and journey through and taste different fruits and do all these amazingly wonderful things. But his belief system is that he's still stuck in this cage. So he doesn't go any further than that, how big that cage was. And we have to get to a space when we understand the power we have over our thoughts, and we understand that the world is so much bigger than what we once thought. We are able to then move freely. But again, we get to this space where we heal, we deal with the trauma, we move forward, yet we're still walking around that cage. And I've gotten so much better about crying on air. I'm really, really happy about that. But I feel a little teardrop starting to approach because I recognize how far I've come. But I also recognize that I too have to open up my eyes to so much greater, to so much more that is sitting and waiting for me. And the same is true for you. Oftentimes it's not that we haven't grown and we haven't learned the lesson. It's just that we don't know how to move forward. And that's what we're speaking about now. Moving forward, getting back to that belief system. You have to believe new things about yourself. You have to believe in new possibilities. And once again, even if those dreams are, I don't think a dream is ever old, but even if you've had dreams for years and years and years, you have to refocus what you believe about that dream, the reality of that dream, the promise of that dream, and the fulfillment of that dream. So I really believe that today's tip or tool, or the tip and the tool, is our belief. What are we believing? Now, when you think about this concept of believe, you have to understand that to believe a thing is to be enamored by it. It is to love it. It truly is to love it. And too often we are in love with our past, or we are in love with the disappointment and everything that we don't want. You have to literally have a zeal for the good things that you desire in your life. You have to believe in those things. And more importantly, you have to believe that those things are for you. Oh, let's just take a Selah on that. You have to believe that the very hope, dream, and desire that you have is for you. And I really, really want you to take that and just meditate on that in itself. What is it that I believe? And what is it that I desire? And do those two things come into alignment? Do you truly believe what you desire is for you? And that is a concept that a lot of us don't really ever consider. Some of us don't even allow ourselves to dream again. Some of us don't even allow ourselves to write about the what ifs in a good sense. Again, we have been programmed for contingency plans and everything going wrong. So we don't even get to enjoy 20 seconds, a minute of just basking in the what ifs of the good life. Yes, to bask in the what ifs of greatness and of abundance and of wholeness. It's almost as if we run away from those things, and we don't necessarily bury those things so that they can be prosperous and grow. We bury them under rocks and under everything that will stunt its growth. And then we meditate on the things that we don't want. Oh, let's just take a Selah on that. And it's so interesting because oftentimes we don't even realize that we're doing this. We don't even realize that the time that we spend worrying about something is literally time taken away from watering something that we actually want. And again, we have to go through spiritual rehab, and we have to go through unlearning and digging up the rocks and the bricks and everything else that was thrown at us. And remember, to discover a thing is to uncover it. So once you finally make it through that finish line of uncovering a thing, do not return to it in your space of freedom. Because that's another thing that happens. We finally get free of a thing and then we go right back to it. Remember, it is this concept of practice. It is this concept of discipline. And discipline is to study a thing. It is to become that thing. It is to take on that thing of which you are meditating. So we truly, truly have to stretch ourselves. We have to get so far removed from the negative thought that all we know is the good. Be patient with yourself, but be steadfast, be unwavering, be so focused, so laser sharp, so spot on that one day after the next relieves you of the thought, the paradigm, the philosophy that you had prior to. And this is this concept of literally renewing your mind. You didn't learn your ABCs in one day. You didn't learn how to tie your shoe or spell your name in 2 days. It takes time. Remember, everything is learned because we do not create wisdom. Wisdom has been here before us. It will be here long after us. So the only power that we truly have is our power to choose. And once we choose a thing, we meditate on that thing. We AKA chew on it and we give birth to it. That is the concept of meditation. It is to chew on cud. Literally, cows chew on their food. They regurgitate it and then they chew on it some more because they are literally getting and extracting all of the nutrients in their food. And the same needs to be true for your thoughts. You need to grasp onto a thought with spiritual jaws of a pit bull and don't let it go until it becomes your own. And you know when a thing becomes your own, when you start moving differently and you start thinking differently. And if nothing else, you start to you forget to worry. And that's a beautiful space to be in because oftentimes a lot of us put worrying on our schedules, on our list of things to do. But when you distance yourself, when you resist that thing, when you start to focus so much on the good and the beautiful and the amazing, you stray away from those things of old and you become new. Oh, this feels so good, guys. So I just want to wrap up this part 2 of the culture and just wrap up this concept of culture in general. Remember, we all have an inner reality and the inner reality creates the outer form when we accept the truth that we all live in 2 worlds, literally. One that is based on our 5 senses and then the other where it's invisible, whether it's a thought, whether it's that ultrasound that our natural ears cannot pick up on. We truly exist in 2 worlds at the same time. And when we grasp onto this thought that whatever is going on the inside of me will be manifest on the outside of me, we are literally in a powerful seat because then we recognize that we can co-create our existence and we can truly find ourselves in alignment on the path that has already been written for us. If you don't take anything away from this topic called the culture, remember this: you have an inner reality and you are a steward of that reality and you have power and authority to choose the thoughts, aka the seeds that you plant, that you cultivate, and that you give birth to. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Life Club with me, Tashima Jones. It is always a pleasure rocking with you. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you were here with me, and for that, I am truly, truly grateful. Remember, you can get recent shows, articles, videos, and more at tashimajones.com or on my app, TJM TV. Until next time, remember your greatness. Talk soon.
I am Tashima Jones, and you've been listening to Life Club. Thank you for tuning in.